Welcome, Spartans, to Podcast Evolved, your home for Halo. I'm your host, Aaron, and with me today we've got Colin.
Evolved.
And we've got Tom.
Wait, is that for the end of the show?
You can use it in the start if you want.
We're off to a good start.
We're going to get there. We're going to see how this goes. If you're joining us, this is the second of our live shows today where we dissect all of the infinite stuff that has happened. Now, we have the added advantage of we have had longer to dissect this because the jerks that stole our team name went first.
That might have been my fault. Because we have 3, and canonically Red Team has 3, Blue Team has 4. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
no,
I'll be Alice. I'll be Alice. She's badass.
You get that big turret. Cool. So, I guess for this, the way they did it on the Xbox live stream, obviously they kicked off with the cinematic trailer. So what did you guys think of that? I thought it was kind of weird that it was from Cortana's perspective. It sort of set a very different tone than I was expecting.
Was it Cortana or was it Halsey?
I'm leaning towards Cortana.
Okay, why?
Just because she's popular at the moment, isn't she?
The voice sounded young, which made me think it's not Halsey. It sounded... Well, I suppose it could have been young Halsey. It wouldn't be the first time we bounced back and forth.
Yeah.
But it did sound like young Cortana voice.
Yeah.
And there's a face. There's like a woman that's overseeing this at some point. So is that young Halsey? Well, she got... I don't know.
I think she's probably like a generic scientist. Because you see the guy as well who's with them.
Yeah, there's a couple of them, right?
But... I was going to say there is an interesting parallel straight off the bat where obviously, because I've just played the Breaking last night, at the end of Halo 5, Cortana starts to quote the Didact. I don't know if anyone noticed, but the light going over about 20 seconds into this trailer where it's scanning the thing with the orange beam, it looks a lot like when the Didact is scanning for the Composer at Midnight Facility. So I guess that kind of visual cue made me instantly think, oh, this is Cortana and she's kind of back doing something suspicious, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, that's at the beginning of that game too.
Yeah.
If you remember, kind of right when you wake up, then you get scanned and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. You're just lying in cryosleep and you're like, what's going on?
That's from Halo 4. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I enjoyed this. I mean, it's really... Remember when they dropped the GIF of the helmet, like, dropping in on social media a couple days ago? Like, what the hell's going on? So obviously that's from this, and that makes sense that they're like putting this suit together for the first time.
Yeah,
and I think this is our introduction to, you know, the new Mjolnir. If it's Mark 7 or if it's Gen 3, Mark 6, whatever. It's one of those empowering moments. Like, hey, you know, you're gonna take this into battle. I wonder if this is... You think this is part of the game? Like somewhere in the game? Like maybe the first thing that you see? Or is this completely separate? Is this just completely a marketing piece?
I think it's just a marketing piece, personally. It has that live-action-y look.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's a prelude to the game. Because if you think about it, they've been marketing this as a soft reboot, so I wouldn't be surprised if the cutscene ahead of Infinite perhaps introduces people to Halo. So this is what a Spartan is, this is the UNSC, all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And then we dive into the game. Because if you think about it, for us, it's just a treat, because it's kind of the highest quality we've sort of seen this stuff in to this date.
Yeah.
So for pre-existing fans, it's just getting to see something that we know and love reimagined, and then for new fans it kind of introduces them to it and explains the very core concept.
And they have this... Right, yeah, I agree with that. They have this facility, though, that they show, which is above some other planet that I don't think we know what it is yet. It's got this giant hole that's some sort of a mining thing or
Yeah, it looks like there's some sort of a drill running around the outside edge of it.
I did see, I've been trying to stay away from other people's opinions until we recorded, but I did see Installation 00 think that maybe it's an emergent hole from a Guardian, which could be interesting.
Could be cool.
And maybe they're using some of the technology from that, I don't know.
It looks to, I don't know, there's a big sort of quarry crane thing, like, oh, what was the level? Wasn't there a reach level like that back in the day? One of the multiplayer levels has like one of those big rolling cranes that scoops the earth out.
If not, yeah. I mean, Apex on Warzone's got the big moving crane as well, hasn't it?
It looks like a big sort of pit. But this must be their new... From having done the Halsey Journal there recently and done it again, I like this nod to the old lore that they have to form the crystal and that in zero gravity. Because that's that's why Halsey sent the research team to the Damascus facility, because they could do zero gravity like construction.
Yeah,
I think it's something to do with the crystal undersuit. So I'm guessing this is like another top secret facility, but it looks... There's something in the middle. I know they're digging around the edge, but there is... Looking at this video, there's like a hole in the middle that has very sort of like flat edges. It looks like it's gone in. Sorry, this is how me and Tom have spent the last hour, just
analysing every single pixel.
Looking at HD resolutions, but when you blow it up, it does look to just be a big facility. I'm guessing this is where... they mine the materials that it takes to build the armor. I wonder, is this Damascus?
I was about to say that. It could be a rendition of that.
Yeah, could this be the same planet? Like, the Covenant attacked it, but it wasn't a populated colony, so they wouldn't have had to glass too much before they left.
Yeah. Okay, so here's an interesting idea on the completely flip end of that. My friend was saying... So obviously we're all assuming that from the end of Halo 5 we are going to be fighting against Cortana, but there has been some discussion that maybe we have to ally with her against something bigger. So what if this is actually her equipping the Chief with a new suit of armor because they have to fight together?
Possible, I don't
Interesting.
know.
I feel like that would be... Because this feels like the beginning of the game. So somehow off screen it was resolved that they needed to fight together. Yeah, I don't know.
Lucas in the chat says that it seems very like the Halo 4 intro, that like Halsey interrogation. It has similar vibes to that.
Yeah, totally. Like the prequel, whatever it is. What did you guys think? Was there anything in the initialization sequence in your HUD? Did you guys poke through that at all?
Is this is the same one that they like posted on Twitter, right?
I don't know.
It looks like it's the same.
It looks like there's some codes in there for probably some Game Pass or something like that. I wasn't sure if there's anything else in there.
Yeah, there are some codes in there if you pause it at the right frame. But I remember some people were saying they might be the same as the E3 trailer codes.
Yeah, that's what
I didn't check them. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because that initialization again. It just, I don't know, it almost looks like it's gone back to the interior of a Pelican with the way the inside of the helmet's structured, and there's like almost a ramp at the end. It's just cool seeing like so many parallels. I am very interested by who this older gentleman is at 129. Like, could he potentially be Chief Mendes? Is that possible? That would be quite interesting.
That could be cool. I mean, could it be Chief? We saw his eyes in Halo 4.
Yeah, it's...
No, it's not.
He would be looking like a very old man at this point.
What's in his eyeball? Can you see it?
Oh.
Is it just a suit?
It looks like a monitor. He's looking at a monitor. I was going to say we're going to talk a little bit about how old we think the build is when we get onto that in a bit, as Aaron has just alluded to. Beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like... So I'm going to drop an interesting idea here. Let's say, for example, that was Chief Mendes or whatever. Could this potentially be an introduction to the lore for people who obviously aren't familiar with it at this point? But could it also potentially set up the Halo TV show? Because we know it's going to be slightly different. So I wonder if we'll maybe see some rendition of those characters as a part of this.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I get the vibe. I think Lucas is on to something with... I think this is going to be like their equivalent of the Halo 4 very close to live action scene. Listening back to the audio there, I definitely wasn't listening while you guys were talking. I think it's young Halsey it's supposed to be, because it doesn't quite sound... She doesn't talk the way Cortana does, but it sounds like a Halsey at the beginning of like the final stage of the Spartan program.
Yeah.
even though this armor's definitely the new armor, it sounds like Halsey talking over the top of it.
I think so
So
too.
I could see this having... I could see this intro being in the final version with different audio, like different speech over it.
Yeah,
that could be possible, yeah.
Like not young Halsey, but it's beautiful. Also, I don't think that's a Guardian emergence hole. There's like a shot from above looking down from the space station, and you can see the quarry narrows down and rings the whole way in the middle. It just seems to be a mining facility.
Yeah, definitely.
So Chief at the end of 5, we don't know what happens between 5 and 6 or Infinite yet, but this feels like they're making his new armor, right? So he needed to come to this facility for some reason. So that's like lore-wise, it feels like this is a little bit of the gap between Shadows of Reach the book and then perhaps Infinite itself before we find, Floating Chief. Yeah.
He might, I'm wondering, he might have come here, or something they found on Reach might have been shipped here, but...
It's strange, because looking at this shot that you said from overhead as well, Aaron, if you look at the top of it, it almost looks like it's not finished construction. Like there's a lot of the facility, it's kind of like exposed... not like scaffolding, but like bits of metal that have got that texture where it looks like it's the frame that should have something built over the top of it. And it also then looks like the middle of the facility is kind of sunk in almost. So I wonder if this is kind of again a case of them just using maybe an old abandoned facility from the Human Covenant War, because they've kind of just got to use what they can at the moment.
I'm wondering, is it that, or is it something for the Spartan 4 program that was never completed?
It's
because
possible.
Sort of, like, it does have that look like it's not finished, but just wondering, I'm looking back at it here, it seems sort of fairly quiet and run down, but you'd need a fairly big facility to churn out Spartan 4 armor, because there's so many of them.
It's weird. It almost... I wonder if it's a quarry or if it's a launch site. Because you can see that there is a hole at the very bottom of the quarry that looks like it would be the same dimensions as this structure. So I almost wonder if that's how it got launched up into the atmosphere.
It seems too big. It seems like a big station. I think I'm going to guess you'll find out that this is where they mine the magic space element that you put into the gel layer or something, because the rest of the suit's fairly common, like titanium is titanium.
Yeah.
But it's the gel layer that has to be strung together and built in zero gravity. I'm going to guess this is where they mine it, which would make me wonder then, if you told me down the line that this is where the Damascus facility used to be, I think that would be like a cool nod that we've had to come back here someday to start this program up again.
Yeah. It kind of go hand in hand with the retreading old roots sort of topic, wouldn't it? And kind of taking it back to the drawing board.
Will we jump into the meat of this, though?
Well, let's just talk real quick. The look of his armor, we've seen it before, but I like this, showing it come together and being built and all that sort of stuff helps, I guess, reinforce how much I love this armor. It's fantastic. It's a good amalgamation from, the earlier days, and then some, tweaks that people like from the newer look, the 4 and 5 look, but it's mostly going throw back to the old style. And I like the fact that he has 117 on his chest too. Like I'm all about that. I know some people aren't, but that's going to be. I like that distinction between the different Spartans, and that's his call sign. So I'm on board with that.
I've just kind of come to accept that it's for the audience, but I'm a firm believer in no identifying marks on the Spartans, but then again, they're so easily to tell apart in their armor now. I don't think you're ever... I'd be alright if they ditched it, because you're never going to have another Spartan stand beside Chief in the same suit of armor ever again. So, I'd be okay with it, but I kind of get why they do it. Like, they do it in Forward Unto Dawn and all the rest, and it's, mostly there for everyone else's benefit.
Yeah.
It doesn't kill me.
Do you think that in multiplayer, you know how you get to do your own little number typically? Do you think they'll throw that on your chest? Would that be kind of rad?
That would be cool.
I would be totally down for that if you could display your call sign, because you could do it with... I think in some of them, it used to show it in Reach, didn't it? Show it under the crest on your shoulder pad, I think.
Did it?
I think so, yeah.
It would show your emblem on your shoulder pad, so And I want to say like you could see your number somewhere under it too, or maybe it's Halo 5. But I would love more customization like that, just things you could see to make it your own.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, yeah, I think we should move on into the main trailer. I have got it all queued up here. And the first thing to really touch on, apart from the fact that obviously it says start demo, is the fact that we are seeing those old Halo structures again, the like stone carvings of them, which is quite cool. So what do you guys think of those? Do you think it hints at ancient humans at all? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it's to me, it's a callback to the, was it the original Slipspace or Slipstream demo that they was 2018, right? 2018. So to me, it's drawing that connection together. But I guess there could be some significance from a ancient civilization, or not, I guess it's not ancient, but a civilization that was living there, that they knew that they were on this Halo ring, so that they built this. Is there a callback to Primordium at all, Aaron, that you can think of? That
not off the top of my head, unless they're either decorative or they're functional equipment that's broken. Like, I wonder in that start demo image, how much of that blue shimmer is just for the logo floating in the middle, and how much of it is, are they just stone rings, or are they device? Like, is it a gravity lift or something?
Is it a Stargate?
Is it a Stargate? I'd be totally down for Stargate.
Tom, what I thought you were going to say was that the most important thing was these little birds walking around.
The birds are really cool.
Yeah, okay. So there's something to touch on, and that is that Chris Lee said that the new technology with the Slipstream engine, or Slipspace, has allowed them to bring the ring to life in ways that they never thought they would be able to. So I think that that's hinting at the nature, because obviously we can see the birds here. We had the rhino-type creatures in the initial E3 trailer that you referenced a minute ago, Colin. So I genuinely think that we're going to see a ring that's actually full of life this time, which is quite exciting. So I'm interested as to how far they're going to go with that. Like, are we going to see, is it the Sharkwee? If, like, they popped up, for example, that would be quite cool. Obviously, if you had some of the blind wolves that appear in Last Light, I think it's Last Light. I am trying to drop so much lore here without even knowing half of it. If they dropped those in, I think it could be interesting. So I very much think that we're going to see a ring that feels a lot more full of life this time. What do you guys think of that? Do you think that there's any gameplay that they could kind of build around that, or do you think it's just going to be ambience to kind of immerse you in it a bit more?
I thought at one point that there was going to be like these big beasts that you would maybe encounter and have to, kill or something like that. But I think it's just more going to be ambient. Like, I could see how there's a herd of some big animals that run in the front of a firefight that you're having with the Banished or whoever. But I don't think, or maybe there'll be like some animals in cages for some reason, and that will explain why some of these mercenaries are on the ring. But I don't see you interacting with them beyond that.
Yeah,
I can see them very easily going for the Halo Reach sort of moment where you can ambush troops with predators. Like, there's, I could see like a nice dark sniper level where if you make too much noise, the large fanged beast will come. So, you might chuck a grenade into the middle of the Banished and hide somewhere and let the local wildlife come in and attack a few of them.
So
things like that.
Along those lines, and we'll get there, but this whole thing feels a little Far Cry to me.
Yeah.
With the grappling hook that we'll talk about in a little bit, like, the whole the gameplay does feel very Far Cry, which is fine, which is okay. We'll learn more about that. But if they add that mechanic to it specifically, like, here, I'm going to let this beast go so that it can kill all these Covenant, that's Far Cry right there.
I think I don't think you'll have like a pet. I can see it being that you won't be able to tame them, but you might be able to take advantage of them just in the area. Like, also possibly you may have to occasionally fight them. Like, fine rightly, if they have predators, at some point you're going to have to go and find a terminal that's in a cave that has a bear thing in it.
Yeah.
like Chief's gonna have to grapple some sort of grizzly bear and punch it to death?
So obviously we know that the UNSC forces on Zeta are scattered. I could potentially see you having to go and rescue some Marines as Chief, and like maybe save them from a horde of animals that are attacking them because they can't save themselves from it. That could be quite a cool way of adding them as a gameplay element, as still feels a little bit more authentic to the universe.
What if, back when they did Halo Reach, I think Bungie said at one point they wanted you to do a mission where you rode those beasts, like, out of an area?
Oh my god.
What if you could grapple your way onto the top of a large animal?
Well, that would be interesting. And that, I mean, again, we'll talk about the grapple more a little bit later on, but it would be interesting to see if maybe this could be the resurgence of takedowns for things like hunters. Because obviously if you've got a grapple, you can suddenly get a lot closer to a hunter and maybe get on top of it. So it would certainly be interesting. I think, just so we keep moving forwards a little bit with this, so the next kind of big thing to note with this, when you get to the 20-second mark, so you can hear we're going all in, guys. We're at 20 seconds already.
Wait, did you skip past the date?
I did.
Okay.
Purely because I didn't think it gives too much away.
Let me just do a little math. So I'm doing some math right now. So 167 days before May 28th.
That's the bit I'm sitting on right now.
Okay. So that's December 13th, 2559.
Okay, cool. So on the back of that, do you guys think that we're going to see any flashbacks that explore what has happened? Because obviously we've already spoke about the fact that the intro might be a flashback. So does that mean we're going to see more of that through it? Do you maybe think we might play some flashback sequences? How do you think this form of storytelling is going to take place in the fact that we're getting thrown in at the deep end?
I think terminals are going to explain it.
Okay.
There's going to be things that you find that are going to explain, you know, how we lost, all that sort of stuff. I would love to play it, but after seeing this, I mean, that was my original hope and intention. It was that, hey, we're going to go back and do some of this stuff in first person, you know, with our own 2 feet, our own weapon. But I think it's going to be all we're going to learn what happened.
Okay, cool.
Videos and data drops and things like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm leaning towards this isn't the first mission and the demos dropped us in the middle somewhere and like 167 days since we've lost. Well, I could see the timeline bouncing back and forth. The fact that they tell you it's 167 days since we lost and then presumably that first scene is when we find Chief and we do the up-down. I could see it either bouncing back and forth or skipping forward. Like maybe you play that intro section and something happens and then you wake up and you're on the ground. I'm not entirely sure. Like I assume this, whatever they're doing here is not the start of the game.
No, definitely. Like Lucas says, it's a few hours into the campaign. But I would pose you the interesting question then. So do you not think they could just do a combat evolved on us where it just starts in the middle of something and then we don't ever go back? We just keep moving forwards with the story as we're thrust into it?
That's what I think is going to happen.
Okay.
So just for reference, Halo 5, the last mission of Halo 5, Guardians, took place on October 28th, 2558.
Yeah.
So that's a good, year and a half before this date here. And then Halo Wars 2, The Awakening of the Nightmare, the very end, last mission there ends on June 5th, 2559. So from that point, we're 6 months forward, and I think there's a book that takes us a little bit forward, Bad Blood, that takes us a little bit forward as well. So there's still a good year or so that of a gap that's the time frame that we lost.
Okay, cool. So it'll be interesting to see how we kind of explore that window of time, and if, like you say, I think terminals are probably the safe bet, but it'll be interesting to see what else we get. So moving forward after that, obviously we get thrust into quite a cinematic moment. I think this is arguably some of the best looking shots in the whole trailer, with Brohammer in the cockpit and obviously the Pelican going down. What did you kind of think of this sequence? Did you like the way it thrust us in? It kind of, for me, it gave me Halo Reach vibes with kind of Carter in the package as you're going down. I thought there were a few parallels there that I quite liked.
I did like the AA guns, because those are our Mega Construct sets that are out there right now.
Yep. Keeping it very on brand.
It was fun to see that. But the dialogue between Brohammer and Chief is super. And Chief is stoic, and I don't expect any more emotion from Chief in this. He's like, okay, this is the mission. This is what we're going to do. At the very end of their talk, before Chief goes out onto the installation, he's hearing him, right? He's like, all right, we're gonna go find that condor. I know you want to go home, but I have to do this first.
Yeah, I did think it was kind of cute how at the end Chief's like, it's okay, I'll come back and we'll do it together.
Together, right?
Yeah.
Which made you think co-op. Maybe the co-op person's gonna be Brohammer.
Can you imagine? Wow. One thing I do want to say, actually, so for me personally, my initial reaction when I watched the whole thing was that some of the graphics aren't fantastic, but the graphics in this particular sequence are gorgeous. The facial expressions for Brohammer and the fact that you can see like individual little hairs sticking out of his beard are really, really good. And I think it's quite apparent that these two hero characters have had a lot of work go into their assets. So I think that they look really, really good. And I do like this. And I like that Brohammer is kind of saying, no, you don't get to talk to me like that. Because it sounds like this isn't the first thing that's gone wrong for these two. Yeah. And he's kind of a bit annoyed with Chief at this point.
Well, he's also been stranded for a long time, and he just wants to get home. He's just super pissed that he has enough of a relationship with Chief that he feels like he just doesn't give a shit. He's this giant Spartan. He knows he's not going to kill him. Like, why would Chief get rid of him? He needs Brohammer, so he feels comfortable enough to express these frustrations. He's at his wit's end. He's been out here by himself for a long time.
Yeah, I'm watching this pan and sort of 360 shot in the crew bay around the two of them as they talk is really nice.
Yeah, I mean, the lighting, and we were talking about this, so depending on when this build was, presumably the Pelican Bay would have still been rendered out for the previous trailer we got. Deliver Hope it wasn't it? Or Discover Hope, something like that. So it's clear that they've got the lighting and the assets for these particular models looking really, really good. And I think that even the animation, like the way the Pelican Bay opens with kind of the ramp folding down and then the other part of the door going up into the ceiling, all looks really, really smooth. Actually, Aaron, we spoke about the assault rifle a lot, but here on Chief's back as he's walking out, it does look pretty good.
Yeah, that's just it. It looks fantastic on Chief's back, and then just sometimes when the light hits it, it looks peculiar. I noticed they went to great lengths to make sure we didn't see the Pelican.
Yeah, they did.
Good point.
They never pan back, and the first enemies you attack are behind like a bluff of rocks. And when he turns around to see that banished phantom flying over, whatever Pelican is there is blocked from view, and you can only see like the nose gun of a crashed one.
Yeah.
He deliberately looks high the whole time at the Phantom, and then he can see the Warthog in the distance. And like when he pans about there, when the light hits the assault rifle, it looks good. But we talked about this before the show. There's like no texture on it though. It's very it's very smooth. There's no nothing on it. But when you see some of the other weapons as we go through this later, they look more. They have paint. They have more sort of life to them. There's just something about this assault rifle that it looks very just like,
I think I'd say flat.
Yeah, very flat and model in progress, because when you stop at the Warthog looks fantastic. Oh, sorry, tell a lie. We can see the tail of the Pelican.
Oh, okay.
Just as he mounts the Warthog, you can see the back of it, but then the camera swings around again, so you can't see.
Oh, you can see the body of it. Yeah, I'm at a point where you can see the body of it. I was going to say maybe that's because you can customize your Pelican, like make it pink. How rad would that be?
That'd be cool. Yeah, I'd buy a Mega Construct set of a pink Pelican any day.
Let's go.
Yeah, so we were looking at that. Looks really good. I paused here at we were talking about this little menu screen when they bring up the map.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There is a few interesting things here because you can see the difficulty of the encounter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's the difficulty of the open world, and then they have a few 0 of 4, 0 of 1. Like they look to be...
Those are probably credits that you
or
earn or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then this star number, which could be your level, your XP. And there's the upgrades tab on that menu that we don't see either. So
yeah,
I imagine Chief's going to get more abilities as he goes.
It makes sense, yeah. I was going to say, just before we dive into it, because I think there's a lot to be said on that tab, it is worth noting that the grunts that Chief fights are a mixture of Combat Evolve style with the overhead kind of methane mask thing, and then also the Grunt Imperial from Halo 4 and Halo 5.
Yep.
So they're fully mixing their art styles here, which are quite interesting.
Well, I don't think it's art styles. I think it's we've talked about toy reveals and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
They've described a lot of the the alien factions that we see in those as mercenaries. So I feel like that's playing out here, whereas you're seeing a number of grunts and jackals in traditional gear because that's all they had before the Covenant broke up. So that's what they're wearing. And then meanwhile, later on in the trailer, you see, the brutes in their red banished gear, and they're clearly the banished. So I think it's multiple factions that are on this, that are on the ring. The banished don't really care about the mercenaries as much. Maybe they're pissed off that they're looting the ring for something like that. Or maybe they don't care. Maybe they're trying to recruit them into the banished.
Well, there is something later on in the trailer. It hints at two specific factions coming together, and it's something that Aaron and I have spoken about beforehand, so we'll bring it up when it gets to it. But just continuing through this little sequence.
Before you go, I do want to mention here, and there's a definite art style to this, and so you guys are talking about how things maybe aren't rendering or they look different. The gun smooths parts, and it has pocks or dimples on other parts. So I think there is something going on there, but I think we should talk about some of this being like the art style that they established in Halo 4 and Halo 5. Like it seemed to be they were going for hyper realistic, push these machines as far as we can go to make them look, people are going to compare this to the most modern, what's the most modern Sony game that's out right now with the zombies? I'm forgetting it right now.
Last of
Us. Yeah, Last of Us 2. Like they're gonna say, hey, look how good this Last of Us 2 looks like. Well, that's the art style for that, like to be hyper realistic. Whereas Halo Infinite, the art style is not to be hyper realistic. It's to look good in its in its own art style. So I think some of the criticisms that we're going to see are going to be like, well, why isn't it like, why can't we see all of the hairs from this? Or why don't they look as good as Joel? Why doesn't Chief or I guess our pilot look as good as Joel from Last of Us 2? It's because it's two different art styles.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Before we bounce off this pause screen for 1 second, because me and Tom talked about this briefly, on that menu screen on the map, that thing on the right-hand side running along the pylons.
Yeah.
I just had an idea while I was sitting here. It's like a long length of pylons. You can see them. There's larger ones and then smaller ones in between. But in the Forerunner novels, there is a rail system on this Halo because the inhabitants of the Halo are shuttled around on it to like the Palace of Pain and different things. So just putting it out there. I'm wondering if it's the same thing. Funny, I see Ian shouts out in the chat. He said the same.
It kind of almost makes me think of some of the gondola systems in Halo 2.
Yeah, it has that vibe of transport of some description, although it's seen better days.
Yeah, definitely. So I was just going to pull us back to right before we get in the Warthog.
Yeah.
Or once we're in it and we start driving around, this is something that we touched on, Aaron. You see what looks like a downed frigate.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting. What are you guys kind of thinking about that?
Well, I think there's they tie this, and I forget where the screen is in this demo, but there's a screen where Chief's looking at the ring and then a bunch of ships, and then all of a sudden they all go red. So something happened here, clearly, and we're going to be finding all sorts of UNSC wreckage along the way, which is, makes sense lore-wise and then makes sense gameplay-wise because we're going to want to be able to find UNSC weapons along the way. And so we're going to have to go raid these crashed frigates and ships that are on the Halo ring to get the gear that we need for the campaign.
And I'm guessing like this frigate has fallen victim to these particular cannons. Like on that map, it looks like you've already destroyed one cannon and there's 3 more to go. So,
yeah.
Like that was the whole reason in Halo 3 why we had to take out the anti-air cannon before the Forward Unto Dawn could land on the Ark.
Yeah.
It was the same thing, so I'm guessing this is just some poor captain that has slip-spaced into the wrong spot and got a before he got started. Or potentially maybe it's not a frigate, maybe it was like a science vessel that attempted to escape.
Sure.
It's a very sizable ship anyway, although it seems to be, as you go further along this, it's definitely some sort of military facility because there's cargo pods everywhere. Mm-hmm. There's loading ramps and a lift. So, and there even seem to be some sort of like human watchtowers as well. Like there's a... When you drive along here in the Warthog and you splatter the suicide grunt, like that area that they're standing in front of seems to be a wall and a set of gatehouses and gates that are missing. So it looks like this was some sort of base to the lift at the top. Yeah.
It kind of gives me vibes a little bit like the... Is it the Harry Lamb station on the Ark? I want to say it's Lamb. Yeah, it feels a little bit like that because before you go up to the science building there in Halo Wars 2, there are like some little outlying structures and things. So I wonder if maybe it's like quite similar
as well. I think it's Henry, by the way, before someone corrects us. I think it's Henry Lamb.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Can I throw an idea out there? What if, because we're in a Pelican, that's our main mode of transport, it feels like the Pelican crashed, but we're going to go back to that and use it to traverse around the ring elsewhere. What if this is our Warthog, and this Warthog never blows up or never crashes? This is a Warthog that we upgrade. And so eventually we can go upgrade it to a Gauss Hog and other things like that.
Can we upgrade it to a dual attack Warthog?
Or a Rocket Hog?
I could very easily see somewhere like this being your base. Like, I think you're going to fly... If they've built it sort of in islands, I could see this being, you fly from section to section. That's your kind of like your travel method. Mm-hmm. Sort of like the spaceship in Destiny. But maybe you might get to see the areas you fly over it. But somewhere like this could be like your home base. Maybe you take it over and start to rebuild it.
Yeah.
If you lose your Warthog, maybe you wait for another one to be built.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then fly it out on the Pelican underneath it.
That would be cool. I was saying in our podcast chat the other day, wasn't I? It would be cool if it was something a bit like Alpha Base on Installation 04, where you're kind of like building it up with Covenant bits as well as human bits, and you're kind of just piecing it all together. So you could maybe even have a mission kind of like a shout out to Silver and his ODSTs, where you have to go and get a shade turret to defend the base or something like that. I think it could be quite cool.
I could very easily see that. Like those ODSTs in that first trailer that you're rescuing, I could see it being a case of you rescue the likes of that, and then Brohammer flies them back to your base, and now you've got the option to call in ODST reinforcements, maybe if you're stuck in a very sort of Halo Wars leader power.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Yeah, and I think that then, like, obviously, as we're saying, they're going to support this game for a long time. So then there's the scope for them to potentially add more side missions over time and introduce new units and new friendly units, new equipment through those kinds of missions as well, which I think could be quite interesting.
Did we talk about that on when we started to record or not? The IGN article? I
think we mentioned it.
Okay.
I think we mentioned it before we did the official...
Okay.
So
anyway, there's an IGN article out there that you can read. It's a couple paragraphs, but it more or less says, and it's Ryan McCaffrey, so a good source, that this game is going to live on for the foreseeable future. So any additional storytelling that they want to do in the Halo universe is going to take place in the Halo Infinite game proper. That's what it feels like to me. It's good. So it's not like a living game like Destiny, because Destiny has Destiny 1, Destiny 2, and there'll probably be another one. But it feels to me like there'll be DLC. It's not the same meaning as it was 5 years ago. but there'll be additional story that we'll be able to play after this campaign proper ends.
Yeah, definitely.
I could easily see this being like maybe it's expansions that you might have to pay for, but maybe you might get them free on Game Pass. Like
that would be cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of games that do that. Like Assassin's Creed does that. They'll give you a good, 30-hour, or not 30, but maybe like 10-hour addition to the main story.
Like the way we talked about this before we recorded, when we were just like chatting away, was what if they kept adding chunks of Halo and you slowly kept working your way around the ring? Like maybe every 3 months you get a new quote-unquote island.
Yes.
And like that's the infinite motto is we're just going to infinitely go around this ring.
Right.
Like if they do this for the next 3 or 4 years and build the story on and you get chunks and chunks and chunks, like I'm sure in real time Chief won't be there for 3 years, but maybe the story conceit is the ring needs time to rebuild and you've got to take control before Cortana destroys it, or
which makes me wonder where she is. Like, if we're rebuilding this ring over time, which I think you're onto something there. Where is she at?
Yeah,
I'm guessing she's doing like high level baddie stuff, maybe. But
but you would think that she would have an eye on Chief, right? Unless something in the story allows her to not know where this ring is anymore.
I think we're on a similar front. I think me and Tom are talking about it. We'll get to it when we go to the communication, but I think they've pretty much hinted at this Brute is kind of the representative for the Banished, and I think they've hinted at a representative for Cortana.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be Cortana herself much for now, but like they've hinted at another name, which makes me think that Cortana has her own version now of like the Warden Eternal.
Sure. Did you want to talk about the map, Tom?
I was going to actually pull it back a little bit to kind of the fact that obviously the frigate's down, but a lot of the other landscape here looks quite damaged as well. There's like square bits sticking out and everything like that. So I kind of have an idea that would explain how so many vessels were destroyed. What if they fired the ring and something's gone wrong with it, so it's not had the full effect, but that's how all of this destruction has occurred? Because it would explain how that entire fleet of vessels, which we see is quite sizable, was damaged. It would explain how the ring is damaged, and it would also explain the very strange state that we see the ring in now, where there's lots of kind of floating terrain and lots of jagged edges and things like that.
I'm thinking it's either that or an act of sabotage by the Monitor. Maybe the Monitor, if Cortana arrived at the Halo, like we saw that Guilty Spark did not take kindly to early Cortana trying to take control of his Halo. Maybe this Monitor pulled something out of his hat because this is a different ring to all the others. Maybe he disassembled the Halo himself, or she. Like maybe it just went, no, you're not having this. And now it's a race to see who can take over the sections before it's reassembled.
Oh, yeah, that's interesting.
That would be cool. Yeah, that would be really cool. So going back to the map then, the kind of thing that I pulled out from it, and I brought this up when we were talking as well, Aaron, is the fact that it says we're not leaving this island till the 3 AA guns are down.
Yes.
So that kind of, going back to the Far Cry vibes, Colin, suggests that you have to do certain tasks before you can unlock another area.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I totally agree. And that's why, well, maybe we'll talk about the grappling hook a little bit here, because that would tie into that. That's why they went with a grappling hook versus a jetpack or something like that. That would make more sense to give you free roam of the entire ring. But we don't have that. We have something that has limited range that can only bring us to certain areas of the current island that we're on before we accomplish that task.
Also, a lot of those islands look far enough away that even a jetpack wouldn't really...
Yeah.
I could see you easily still having access to a jetpack, and the conceit being that canyon's just too wide and you're never going to make it,
Sure.
Yeah.
It would make for a jetpack, and a grappling hook could make for interesting traversal where you could fly up and maybe grapple off aircraft and launch yourself and then fly again. Like, I could easily see sort of like exploration or movement where you could grapple and jetpack and grapple and allow each to recharge. Although I do think there appears to be, maybe I'm wrong, but on the display in the HUD, there seems to be a number beside something that looks like the grapple. So I'm wondering if there's limited use.
Yeah, there's a 1 next to it.
Yeah,
maybe
I'm
recharges.
Yeah, so like there's a limit to what you can do with it anyway. But I'm curious to see, like the best thing about it that we see here is when he picks up the fuel, like the cylinder, and then chucks it at the
fusion coil.
Yep, that's the word I was looking for.
What do you guys think of? So on the map a little bit longer. So at 304, if you go to 304, you can see a couple of different icons. You see the normal level icon. You see something that looks like credits that you're going to earn. But then there's 2 other icons. One that has 004 or 0 of 4, and another one has 0 of 1. What do you think those ones are?
I'm guessing. I'm guessing they're upgrade materials because you have an upgrades tab. I'm gonna guess you maybe need
collectibles.
I guess. Well, it could be collectibles, maybe, or materials or points that you can sink into unlocking things in the armor.
Does the one on the far right look like a cryo bay almost?
I thought it looked like a radio. I'm wondering if that's collectibles, like audio logs.
Yeah.
It's possible, or
the other one is the other one kind of looks like a base, like a tower.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you something that ties back into Far Cry, and this could very well be related to it. Do you think that we're going to have to do certain activities to stop an enemy influence in a specific region? So, say for example, we destroyed the 3 AA turrets here. If we then took the time to do some other stuff, would that stop Banish from spawning in this area altogether, do you think?
I suddenly have visions of Chief having to climb the radio tower to take down the strength in an area.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
I don't like
you gotta rip down the propaganda posters.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think they'll go that far. I think it's interesting, and that's a Far Cry thing, where they'll take it back. But I feel like that's not going to happen here. I mean, it would make sense if it's only you and Brohammer, but they haven't hinted at any other Marines at all, other than in that very 2018 trailer.
Yeah.
No, I think they will come along to that because on that map there's there is a 4th gun battery there that's a different color to all the others, and they only mentioned taking out the other 3. So,
but I think that gun battery, that's just saying that's my interpretation of that is this area in this is the mission that you need to do in this area. That's why it's gold.
That's the thing, and then these are the 3.
And these are the 3 things that are, targets. And then once you get the 3, then there'll be like a check mark over that gold one.
I'd be curious. I'm wondering. I still think that looks very like a base-esque area that I can see it rebuilding over time. Like if you rescue a group of Marines, maybe the next time you come back, there's no junk lying around the place. If you collect a few engineers, maybe you come back and the gates are repaired. Things like that.
Yeah, that'd be quite cool.
Changing over time.
I think. Let me hold up. Let me replay it.
D Pancake says that there wouldn't be anything to do. So if you cleared the area and then you owned it, then there wouldn't be anything there wouldn't be a reason to come back to this area, or there wouldn't be. There's no reason for the enemies to be there, which is a good point.
Yeah, I'm thinking that you'll have an area that you'll deal out of, and then you'll roam out of there. This could be This might be coming close to you establish a base of operations here. If it's only a few hours in, maybe you've fought whatever it is at the start, the time's gone forward, now you've realised you're not going to get off the ring because this brute has announced himself at the end, and now you know that you've got to stay and you can't actually flee the area.
So I would just point out that the graphic with the 3 different objectives comes up when you hover over the yellow icon, so it looks like this might be a mission prompt. So I wonder if maybe when you're playing in the open world, you would hover over this and click A to activate mission if you want to do a specific mission.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious.
Then there's another icon. So when you mouse around or whatever,
it's a radio tower.
There's a radio tower of some sort, and then you can also see there are other dots too.
Yeah, there's a couple more along the left as well.
Yeah. There's one that's blue. I don't know what that icon is. So there's lots of stuff to do. Essentially, is what this is saying.
I'm bouncing on through this trailer here because I feel like we've only got to the 3-minute mark and we should move ahead a little bit.
No, that's
coming up
fine.
here to Chief starts to use some of the banished weapons. He's switching it up at the minute. There was that suicide grunt flying through the air with the 2 grenades, and he just
is he jumping, or did like a brute pick him up and huck him at you?
Oh, please tell me that brutes picked him up and chucked them. That's sort of like...
Wouldn't that be rad?
That,
so
Wolverine and Colossus, isn't that one of their...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So are you at the bit all the way at the top now, Aaron, where we've gone up the lift, and then just as we got up the lift...
He's just up here now. Cool. I'm at the part where he's just picked up the brute shot at like the 5-minute mark, or 5.5. And then he grapples... Yep, there he goes. He grapples up to the next area, and his grapple count goes down to 0. So either is it a recharge or is it a reload? I'll have to watch this as we go on.
I reckon recharge.
He smacks that
or you gotta pick it up
with that bolt shot and just destroy. What is that weapon? It's not the bolt shot. What is it? Is it a bolt shot?
Is it the revolver one? Or
yeah, that's the brute.
So it's a Mangler. Yeah.
The grapple recharges. I'm looking at a little before where you're at. And he uses it, and then the kind of the color grays back in, and then it goes back to 1.
Yeah.
So it grapples on a recharge.
Right. So I'm guessing it's going to be one of those things where you can unlock like multiple recharges as you go along.
Do a couple in a row.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Decent in the chat says Mauler. It's very similar to the old Mauler.
While we're on the topic of weapons, it is worth noting, just because we've skimmed past them, that we do see quite a few new weapons during this sequence. So there is the VK-78 Commando, which is a tactical rifle that looks a bit like a DMR. A chief walks over a pulse carbine at one point, and later on he picks it up, and it's very similar to the carbine we know. He's got the new pistol out, which is the Mark 50 Sidekick, and we were saying it looks similar to a Glock or potentially a Makarov. And then he also uses the Ravager, which is the brute heavy weapon that looks a little bit like a Spiker.
Yeah, there's quite a few things there. Also, as we talked about with the VK, the DMR-esque weapon, it has a holographic sight of some description, and I'm wondering if there could be an element of weapon customization. I could very easily see a DMR with a telescopic sight, maybe a holographic, maybe a laser. You know, the assault rifle has a very large grip on the front of it. I could easily see that being interchangeable for the dreaded grenade launcher that's been in the novels this last while.
Did you mention the Bulldog as well?
That is a little bit later on.
Okay.
Past where we are currently. But yeah, the Bulldog is the new shotgun as well. And that is it. So in just 8 minutes, we see 6 new weapons. And also a new ability, which is used just before we get onto the lift, which is the drop wall as well, which is very similar to a drop shield. But I almost wonder if it will move with you, because it kind of looks like it arches around you, so I'm interested to see that.
Yeah, I'm a little bit...
And you can shoot through it looks like.
Yeah.
I'm just here where he's picked up the shotgun. I do like the sort of drum magazine on the shotgun.
Yeah, so do I. I like as well how the rail system especially looks a little bit like a Halo 5 shotgun. Like the upper portion of it feels very similar design-wise to that shotgun from Halo 5.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I think you see a brute chucking one of those little dudes. Hold on a second. Yeah, you do. At 5:19, 5:18, 5:19, you see a brute pick him up. Or kick him. Something.
What if an upgrade down the line would be? What if it was the ability to grapple grunts and chuck them back?
Yeah.
Oh, so he throws the grunt, and when it runs back into frame, it's now got the grenades out. So I wonder if the brute, like meleeing the grunt in the back, triggers it to go into suicide mode.
Yeah.
I would love the idea of being able to chuck suicide grunts back at the enemy.
That would be very cool indeed.
Catch them out of the air and fling them back again. So I'm at the stage there where he goes up the... Now, this is a question. He goes up a gravity lift into what very much looks like a human room. So humans are now implementing gravity lifts in their equipment, or is this a banished room? Because I can't...
So this is the turret. It's the interior of the turret.
Oh, right. That's what I'm seeing.
And if you read on the map, it says that you need to disable it from the bottom of the... Yeah, it says use the weapon, whatever that is. Use the weapon to hack into the console and destroy them.
Right.
Oh, interesting. So we don't see that, but I wonder if that's the AI weapon intrusion system that's hinted at in the last trailer then, and if that's what we're using to destroy these.
It could be that, or it's absolutely definitely the 3-tier AI that we're going to pull out of Halsey's lab.
Yeah.
We talked about that on the book club. We were reading back through this. Halsey has 3 more hover brains on ice that she was keeping for later technological advances, and on a later part...
Oh my god.
A later part of her diary, she talks about how she had an idea for an AI that wouldn't suffer rampancy if you tied 3 AIs together in parallel as one unit. And she has a little sketch of these 3 female figures like talking together, and the idea was that the AIs would work as like a group mind and veto and vote thing. So instead of one AI like cutting away at its processes as it gets older, the 3 of them would work together and agree on things, and that this would like prevent rampancy. So we were talking about this in the book club, but like I'm totally down for the idea that Shadows of Reach is going to retrieve those brains.
Yeah.
And that at some point, maybe not at the start of this, but at some point you're going to get a new Cortana, which would make sense with the audio that we got from the first trailer.
Yeah.
Where it's definitely a Cortana that's not Cortana, talking about how this looks like me, but it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I could see it being this new Cortana 2.0.
Yeah, and that would be really cool.
You know, maybe she is the weapon. Maybe Chief can't bring himself to call her Cortana.
Oh, interesting.
I'd like that.
You know, even though she is another Cortana, maybe he can't bring himself to give her a name.
Yeah, because he knows that eventually she'll suffer the same fate. That would be cool.
I would.
Oh, don't they talk about weapon in the original trailer, right? It's like the weapon slot in the Deliver Hope, like weapon not here.
Yeah, weapon not here, yeah. The text that pops up. Just because I'm quite conscious time-wise, I'm going to keep us moving forwards. So here we get our first look at one of the new Brute enemies, who is not Hyperius. Mm-hmm. This is a Brute war chief called Escharum. I'm going to hope that that's right. I've made that up on the spot. So interesting. He's a Brute war chief who has led the Banished to victory over the UNSC forces and taken control of a Halo ring. So yeah, what did you guys think of him? I think he looks pretty intimidating with the one kind of blind eye. It's quite a unique look.
There's something weird, as we said, about the graphics here. He kind of looks like one of your Mega Constructs toys was animated. Don't mean to be mean to him, but...
Excuse me, Aaron, how dare you insult Mega Constructs toys?
I'm very sorry, but there's something weird going on with him. He's kind of like the assault rifle, and there's that one other Brute that is now being memed throughout the game, but there's something weird about his face when he jumps into the animation. And if you look at it, his eye looks like really detailed and really nice, and his teeth do, and then his skin kind of moves peculiarly around his mouth over the top of it.
Yeah. I am going to completely throw us on a curveball because I've just noticed something really cool. I think there's a Halo 4 Pelican in this trailer, because if you look at the scene where Brohammer is kneeling down in front of all the wreckage, the Pelican to the left, looking at the top design, that is a lot closer to the Halo 4 one than it is the Halo 2 one. That seriously looks like the gunship variant, just without the box turret on top of it, which would make sense if these vessels are from a certain ship, which we will touch on in a second. So Colin, why don't you bring up the screen that you mentioned earlier again and what it says?
Oh, right. You're talking about the Infinity one?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so there's the screen. Wait, are we not talking about the Brute guy? We're going back.
We can go more into him if you would like.
Alright, so let's do that. Where is the screen? Here it is. So it's got Chief looking at a hologram and of the ring itself, and there's a whole bunch of ships around, and then something happens, and then they all go red. And they all have they're all titled Infinity, which is interesting. What do you take on that?
So Aaron and I have been talking about this, and Aaron's got a really cool theory about it. Okay. I obviously reckon that the Infinity got its ass kicked. And interestingly, quite a few of the vehicles that were with it are attributed to Oni. So Oni have been doing something on Zeta as well.
Yeah, my theory is, I'm guessing there has been a battle to take control of this ring. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the Infinity inflicted the damage in the blown out section.
That would be cool.
I'm going to guess she's done that as a parting blow. From the looks of it, her entire support fleet, all of her frigates, and whatever fleet that was there under their command has been wiped out. I'm going to guess the Infinity has survived because they've like teased us with that destruction too many times. So I don't think they'll do it again.
Do you think she's probably taken a beating again this time, though?
I'm guessing the Infinity's off licking its wounds and trying to gather up a new fleet, because they're going to have to come back. I think that's going to be like the catch is going to be Chief's going to find out about this guy. They're going to communicate back to the Infinity, and they're going to say, look, we can't come and reinforce you. You're on your own. We're trying to gather up people now and a fleet to come back for you. And as you said, I think earlier when we were talking off screen, it's the perfect time to have an Infinity Eternity team up.
Yes.
Like, what's better than one Infinity coming to save the day? It's two.
See, I could picture, like, say for example, we get 5 years down the line with this game, and we hit the natural ending point. You just have two Infinities. Well, obviously not two Infinities, because one's the Eternity, but you have these two vessels flying above you with just like loads of pelicans and dropships coming in, and it's this big scene where you think you've won, and then at the very end the War Chieftain just turns around and goes, if you think this is bad, you haven't met Atriox yet, and that's how we leave it. I would just be like, oh my god, yes, give me more right now.
So I'm looking at all the icons in that screen, so I'm right about 720 in the trailer. In the demo, you see the Oni you see the Oni icon, you see the UNSC icon, then you see there's like ODSTs in there, and there's a bunch of other icons, and I can't quite place them, but I know that they're Halo related. So is that potentially what is on the ship itself, like who owns the ship, and then what units are on there? What do you guys take away from that?
I would assume so. So the way that Infinite, the last trailer starts, is kind of with the Pelican floating in mid-space. Mm-hmm. So I almost wonder if maybe a Guardian attack has happened, and these are all the vehicles that are left stranded floating. Because can you imagine how morbid it would be if all of these life signs going red is the life support on each ship slowly fading as they're just floating around this ring? Mm-hmm. I think that would set a very interesting tone.
Yeah, I could see it being either that, or I like your idea of, although I don't know how that would work with Brohammer, that it was a Halo Pulse. Well, the only way I could see it being a Halo Pulse would be if it pulsed while Brohammer was on the surface, because he would be safe from the ring activation there.
Sure, and then he escaped. Yeah.
I do like the idea of like a Guardian attack stranding these crews. And maybe, let's say, like the Infinity, I don't think she'll be destroyed. I think we'll see that was her last parting shot, was to blow that hole through the ring and bail out.
Yeah, she kind of like... Yeah, exactly. She stopped them from doing any more damage, but she also couldn't do more than that. I really like that. I think that could be quite a strong contender for what they end up doing, Aaron. So obviously we get the hologram of the ring, and we can see that it's been damaged again, and they're talking. Actually, I have just noticed something very interesting. It shows in this hologram of the ring a pulse going all the way around it until it hits the point at Broke, and then there's a red marker that comes out. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. That perhaps suggests to me that maybe you're onto something with sabotage.
I'm thinking it's either that. Yeah, it's either UNSC sabotage, or I think it's a combination. It could be that and monitor sabotage. Because I can easily see it being something where Cortana took control of the ring and the monitor went, oh no, you don't. And it's not the first time she's been thwarted by a monitor, because, it happened in Halo 5, so if Exuberant Witness can stop her, she can't be alone.
It's interesting that in this hologram, the Halo ring everything is fine, like it looks complete besides that one hole, but then meanwhile, I feel like the more art we've been seeing from Halo Infinite, and even when we're on the ring, like the ring's in bad shape. So maybe it started to deteriorate after this initial strike. This initial hole was blown in the middle of it.
I'm wondering if it's like what if it is a controlled disassembly for repair? Like it's been damaged, and now the plot point would be that while it's repairing itself, it's had to break down into sections and expand out, and there is a deadline to reassembly.
To give the Sentinels room to do stuff.
Yeah. Like that could be your because like you said, it looks like a solid ring when you look at it, but if this is 167 days later, that's more than enough time for someone to start taking the ring apart.
Yeah. So I'm kind of interested, because it almost, with the way it's done, I wonder, is there a way for you to internalize a Halo pulse? So obviously, traditionally, they will go external and nothing on the ring will be affected. Is there a way to switch that? Because the way that goes around it almost looks like a pulse travelling around the entire circumference of it and then meeting in the middle.
I'm gonna guess not. I don't think.
I feel like that's just a graphical treatment to say, hey, this is where the thing happened.
It seems like
this is how the thing happened.
Yeah, it has that look of like a pulse scan sort of a thing.
Yeah, that would make sense. I'm just reading into every pixel and loving it.
Do we, just before we bounce on, do we think that this brute is dual wielding meat cleavers in his
That's
chest?
what it looks like to me. I think those things look rad.
One of them has like strapping and tape on the left that looks like it's a handle reattached to a blade, but they do definitely look like two. They look like two holsters that you could pull those blades up and out and like kick the shit out of someone with them.
I think so too.
They've got hieroglyphics on them.
Oh yeah, they're
like Forerunner hieroglyphics.
But they're kind of thin at the same time. When he turns, there's not much, I don't know, girth to them.
they are quite narrow. I wonder, what if they were like, I'm trying to wait till I see the graphics here. What if there were Forerunner artifacts? Like
it's possible.
Would the brutes still, or would the Banished still care about the Forerunners as gods?
No, but Aaron, somebody who might, and which leads us very nicely onto what I think should kind of be our last topic, is the Harbinger.
Yes.
So, the sentence that this brute says that is very interesting is that both they and the Harbinger have got control of the ring, and soon they will have control of the Auditorium as well.
The ring is already under our control. Soon, the Auditorium as well. The Harbinger and the Banished share the same goal. We fight together to honor the will of Atriox.
So what do we think all of this means?
Oh boy. You go first, Aaron.
I'm guessing the Harbinger is going to be Cortana's. I think this is what we had. The Banished have teamed up with the Created.
Yeah.
The Harbinger is going to be Cortana's man on the ground, because she's not going to be here dealing with it herself. So I'm guessing we're going to have some sort of construct, Warden Eternal-esque person here. And he's going to be working with, he or she will be working with the Banished. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the Auditorium is the Palace of Pain, and that it's actually some sort of like a medical teaching facility where you have the table down in the middle and all the chairs around the outside and everyone observes like an autopsy or something? What if the auditorium is something similar but for Forerunner genetic experiments?
Is that the thing that we see ominously in the background the entire demo?
I wouldn't be surprised at all if that massive tower was something like that, because they described the Palace of Pain as being like a big, tall, like sort of menacing structure, I think.
Yeah.
I could see that being it.
The auditorium, would it somehow be a way to communicate out to everyone else?
It could be. Yeah, I could see that.
Because he mentions Atriox, and he also mentions he got bored, more or less. He talks about Atriox in a kind of a past tense, like Atriox isn't around.
We fight together to honor the will of Atriox.
So this makes me feel like Atriox is going to stay wherever, on the arc where he is in the Spirit of Fire. Maybe they'll pull that stuff in eventually, but this faction of the Banished have moved on. They're honoring Atriox as their leader, but he hasn't been around for a while, so we're going to go do what we think he would want us to do.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Well, I was thinking about obviously the Harbinger and how they could have this relationship. I wonder if maybe the Harbinger is actually going to end up being the Didact, and the Auditorium could be the Composer's Forge, because that would explain how he comes back. Because every Halo ring has got a Composer's Forge, hasn't it?
I'm not recalling.
I don't know if every Halo ring has one. I thought it was specific.
I think there was something in Escalation about it.
The Composer's Forge is on this one, isn't it? Is this not? No, it's not. This isn't the ring they went to. I'm getting confused in my Halo rings now. I thought the Composer's Forge was specific to the ring that Black Team get murdered on.
Let me take a look.
Yeah, that was that ring.
Yeah, Installation 03. But I'm wondering, because I'm sure he said something in that about a composer being on every Halo ring. I need to go back and read Escalation again, which is something I never thought I would say.
We could look into it. I don't know. I don't think the Didact would take instruction from Cortana.
He doesn't mention Cortana at all. I don't think that this guy's mentioning. He's not taking direction from Cortana. If the Harbinger, him and the Harbinger have had a conversation, and they're both on the same page, is what he's saying.
I think they're working. I could see them working together, but I also don't see them adding another faction in that's not. I think the Harbinger's just going to be Cortana's like representative, and that they've teamed up, which is what I was thinking with why. This is why I think Atriox went to the Ark. I think Cortana can't access the Ark, and she like talked Atriox into it, like working together maybe for some sort of common good. Like Atriox isn't working for her, but I think Atriox is maybe the only faction left that's powerful enough to put up a fight, because he hasn't had to fight the Covenant War, he hasn't had to fight the Created War. He is sitting pretty on a pile of very angry brutes that can hold their own. So I think it has forced Cortana to maybe play nice, and that they're having to do something together, even though like she may attempt to betray them down the line. But I can see this being like a, you're the Harbinger of Cortana, you are here as her like representative and messenger, and we are working together.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. Well, I mean, I guess it would make sense for them to work with her as well, because obviously she says in Halo 5 that people who don't listen to her will be suppressed, essentially. So she's going to need a brute force, pardon the pun, to be able to do that and to keep people in check. So I imagine she could easily make a deal with them where she says, if you do this for me, you will get all of this power and all of this influence.
But why wouldn't she use... That's a good point, but then why wouldn't she use the Prometheans, the soldiers, and the knights that we've been fighting for the last couple of games?
I don't think she has left them. I just don't think she has the manpower to do everything on her own.
No.
I think this is what it's going to be. She has her Prometheans, she has her Knights, but she's not going to take over the galaxy with them. Like, they described the Guardians as a police force. I don't think they're like an offensive army. There's only so much they can do. And there has to be a limit to the number of Guardians compared to the size of the galaxy.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty easy, like, get-out clause for that, is just, we don't have the manpower, we have to team up with something, and humanity's not going to team up with her, and there's no one else left.
Yeah. So, I feel like, I was going to say, it's been really nice actually getting to talk more about lore rather than mega constructs for a change. It's been really fun getting to go in depth, and I feel like we could do this all night if we wanted to. But kind of just to, I suppose, end cap this initial reaction, I wanted to take it right back to the game where we first met the Banished in Halo Wars 2. And I wanted to say, with everything we've seen so far of Zeta Halo, do you think that this is going to be the Halo that Professor Anders found herself on? And if so, how do you think that will factor into this?
No, I think that one was a replacement for 04.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think she's on that Halo. I could see her cropping back up in the story at some point. Like,
okay,
she's on her own on that ring.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they'd bring her back in this, but if you wanted a Halsey replacement, Cortana's the person, or Anders is the person to be it. Like, Halsey's getting on in years, and if the current Master Chief suit of armor is like the peak of her creation, if this is the ultimate weapon that she always intended it to be, there's a very dodgy moment where Halsey has no more work left to complete and finally dies. Like, I can see that very easily being a campaign moment of like, I have nothing else left to give you, John. You're fully equipped, here you go. And then if you need another science lady, Anders is there.
Yeah.
But I don't think we'll see
Glassman.
Oh, per Glassman. No one likes Glassman.
Do we know the Halo ring at the end of 5? Do we know what the ring that is?
No, that's why I was... Oh, wait, no! Oh my god, there's so many Halo rings!
See, we don't know, but we assumed it was Anders' ring, but it could in theory be this one, because I don't think we see where this ring is located.
Yeah, it could be Anders' ring because that would show, but else, well, it depends on how far in advance, how far in advance that Stinger is, the legendary ending, because Anders doesn't take off with her ring until like March 2559, something like that.
Yeah, so it's either that or it's just one of the rings that humanity hasn't found yet, and she's like tracking down some of them as she goes.
Sure.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, well, was there anything else you guys kind of really wanted to touch on off the back of this? Or do you feel like we've gone in depth enough and covered it all?
I think trailer-wise, I think we did a good job. I think there is definitely some like rendering things that maybe because this is an earlier build, I think they'll get a lot of that stuff ironed out, and they'll, what we'll get is the best version of the art style that they presented here. I'm hopeful that that's what they'll give us later this year, holiday 2020. We're gonna get multiplayer stuff soon, is what they've said. So we'll be able to react to that stuff. And then the only other thing that's interesting, just from what I've seen published today, is that, and I'll just read it. I think it's a poll from their blog post itself. It says, from the earliest planning, we've been focused on broad feedback around art style and story to actual hands-on playtesting and focused feedback from confidential groups of community representatives over the past 2 years. Halo Infinite is being created in partnership with the community. Now, we don't know who those community members are, but you would imagine they chose various community members that care deeply about Halo as much as we do, so that the community is helping guide them along the way. And I don't see anything here that is a big red flag for me, like, oh, why would they do that, or they screwed this up. So I guess that gives me confidence that we're going to see a lot of the stuff that we want to see from a lore standpoint. Meanwhile, they also talk about... here's another quote really quick. It says, our vision of Halo Infinite's spiritual reboot, in quotes, was to create a story and experience that's inviting to new players and welcomes them to fall in love with Halo the same way many of us did years ago without prior knowledge required. So they're presenting us with kind of a fresh take on Halo. And I think there's another quote, I didn't pull it out of there, but it's also going to pull in and be a continuation of where Halo 5 and Halo Wars left off. They also included that in the blog post.
Cool. Okay, so we should see a lot of kind of story threads built upon and hopefully explored in this game as well as in the future expanded material.
Yeah, here it says right here. Yeah. Meanwhile, longtime fans will also pick up on the continuation of the events of Halo 5 Guardians and be rewarded with new mysteries to unravel.
Cool. That's good to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, overall, like, I like this trailer. There's, like I said, when we sort of start to pick it apart, the Brute at the end being the one thing that made me quite nervous, just the way he looks. But overall, like, the stuff I see here looks good. I like the sort of open world look that they have. I like the equipment. The weapons look interesting. Like, I'm not nervous. Like, I've seen this now and I go, okay, I have some idea. There's bits and pieces I'm not sure about. I was excited to see that, you know, we still have some of our, like, movement abilities from before.
Sprint!
Like, we have sprint, and did we see a mantle as well?
I think we did, yeah.
So, you know, we have the two of those. It'll be interesting to see how this grappling hook works and what we can do with it as we go. Mm-hmm. As like an alternative to ground pound, I think it's interesting, you know, that you can propel yourself into the air and latch yourself onto an enemy and go. So, like, they've showed interesting stuff. I'm curious. I'd like to see more. I would love if they come out at some point and said when this demo was made and was this like the E3 floor show demo. Like, if
that's what it feels like.
Yeah, like.
Well, when are they releasing this demo?
Well, I don't know if we'll ever get to play it. You see, this is the thing. I know I've heard developers before say that, like, they maybe take a cut of the game that's 6 or 8 months old, maybe even a year old, and that's the version that they build the demo off.
Yep.
So the version that you see on the show floor is not the version that's in development now. So it could very well be that by the time we get round to the final version, all those brutes look sexy as fuck, and we have nothing to worry about. But at the minute, when you're looking at them going, they look like they could be in the middle of Crow's Nest in Halo 3.
Yeah.
And you get that vibe. Like, those are the only things that make me nervous. Overall, I'm totally game for open world, sort of semi-open world Halo. Like, let me loose in areas to go and do missions. I do that all day.
Yeah, I agree with that. Cool. So, I think that kind of wraps up sort of everything that we wanted to say off the back of the trailer. Obviously, I think we've all got things that are little kind of points of concern, but overall we really enjoyed it and we're quite excited to see what the future is for this game and to see more of it leading up for the launch. So Aaron, since I'm a newbie to this thing and I have no bloody clue what I'm doing, would you like to lead us out?
It's alright, I will close out the show for now. Shout outs to, just by the way, the most exciting thing to come, which will be the next 5 weeks as the Halo community tears this apart and shows us everything that we missed.
Yep.
Because that's my favourite part of the hype cycle. Alright, well, like, guys, we really, really absolutely appreciate it that you joined us today, because some of you have been here for about 6 hours between the live show and the 2 post shows.
Yeah.
We've come a long way from the Halo 5 days where we did like 1 episode after the trailer, and that was about the height of it. we streamed stuff today, like, that's big steps for us.
It's an exciting day. It's Happy Halo Day today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me be a part of it as well.
Waiting for a long time for this day.
Definitely.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, if any of you have thoughts on the trailer and stuff you want to talk about, you should drop us a voicemail because we can talk about those in the next community show.
Yeah.
If you are some random old woman who would also like to leave us a voicemail, please feel free.
If you want to check about your old age friends, yes, you can ask us. We may not have the answers, but you can try. Our number is 205-EVOLVE. That's 205-386-5833. And like I said, please leave us a voicemail. Leave us a drunk voicemail. You know who you are. If you want to leave us any more, we will listen to those too. You can find every episode of Podcast Evolved on the website, halopodcastevolved.com or halopodcast.com. And also please check out the Patreon as well. There's some awesome stuff going on there. And you also get access to the Patreon Discord chat, among other things. And I think that will do us until the next time. Evolved.
Evolved.